We'll move on, and then again, I'll mention this for anybody who happens to be in the room who's not yet a member of the Wisconsin chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. It's very simple to become one. Just go straight to our website, www.nrhswis.org, and sign up right there, right then and there. And here's a little tip: if you sign up today, your dues will carry you through the end of 2023 in the Wisconsin chapter. So with that little commercial out of the way, we'll move on to our next presenter, and that is Steve Barry, who you may know. He's editor of Railfan and Railroad magazine, which you may have heard of, a photographer of great renown, one of the busiest rail fans I know. He makes it his job, and he takes it seriously. And he's going to give us a little program on steam in the Northeast. Is that right, Steve?
That is correct.
Well, I'll turn it over to you. The stage is yours.
Very good. We got plenty of steam back here in the Northeast, but there's a few significant ones I'm going to highlight here in this program. And you all should be seeing the East Broad Top Railroad on the screen there. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, we are.
Cool. Probably the most significant preservation project right now going on in the Northeast is the East Broad Top. It was a coal hauler, narrow gauge, 3-foot gauge, that stopped hauling coal in 1957, reincarnated as a tourist line over 4.5 miles of its 33 miles. From 1960 through 2011, when the owners decided that they were shut down, they decided they didn't want to run trains anymore. It had passed from father to son to grandson. The grandson's families were not interested in running trains. It was sold to the EBT Foundation a few years ago, and their plan is to reopen the entire 33 miles. And they're doing quite a job. Everything you see here that has steam coming out of it is not real steam. The EBT Foundation has yet to get a steam locomotive out in revenue service. They have fired up one, but it's not in revenue service yet. These are a few events we had in the last couple of years just to highlight the EBT and raise some money for the foundation. Here you see two of the narrow gauge Mikados in front of the Orbisonia station, which is actually in Rock Hill Furnace, Pennsylvania, bracketing the M1 motor car. You will see number 12, that's the smallest of the 282s. There are 6 of them. 12 is the only small one. 14, 15, and 16 are medium size. Excuse me. Yeah, yes, 14, 15, and 16 are medium size. 17 and 18 are large ones. This was during a night photo session hosted by Laro Productions and Pete Laro. Here's number 12 out on the turntable in front of the Rock Hill Furnace Roundhouse. If you peek inside, you'll see one of the locomotives under restoration in the right-hand stall there. The EBT Foundation has 2 locomotives under restoration, number 16 and number 14. 16 will come out first. 14 may come out behind the 15 now. They found a few issues with the 14 they weren't expecting. It's steam, it happens. Here's the 17 and the 18, the 2 big ones out in the yard. Once again, the smoke you see here is not real smoke. It's real smoke. It's not real locomotive smoke. The Laro photography events also emphasize people. It's kind of cool. Get some really cool scenes around the railroad. Here we see a night photo at the Rock Hill Furnace shop complex. The smokestacks in the background are about 30 feet shorter than they used to be. There was a seam at the current top of them, and that seam was rotting out. And rather than have the top 30 feet come crashing down into the shop, it was decided just to take the stacks off. Just a few scenes from a night photo session around the shop complex. One of the best surviving examples of a steam complex in the United States. Inside the roundhouse, you'll find all 6 of the Mikados on most days. The 16 and the 18 were not used in the tourist era. The other ones all were at various times. Interestingly, 16 is being done first. That'll be a brand new engine for the tourist era EBT when it comes out. Once again, not a real fire in here. This is done with orange lights in the firebox of one of the Mikados in the roundhouse. And here you see them putting flues into the 16. The guy that's second from the right with the clipboard, that's Dave Dimitrovich. He is the chief mechanical officer of the EBT. This is a staged photo for the photo event, but it gives an idea of what goes on, what's happening in the shop right now. There's Dave with his official blueprints for the locomotive restoration. Interestingly enough, a lot of the parts they need to restore the 16 were on hand at the EBT shops. They just went over to the shop complex, which was left completely intact in 1957, and found a lot of the stuff they needed on the shelves in there they could put onto the 16. This is David Brightbill. He's been a volunteer at the EBT ever since I was going out there in the late 1970s. For most of the 1970s into the 1980s, the East Broad Top ran their winter spectaculars. And the general manager of the EBT at the time, even in the coal hauling days, was C. Roy Wilburn. And in the tourist era at the winter spectaculars, you can always find Mr. Wilburn with his big coat and his hat out on the platform directing all the events going on for the winter spectacular. David Brightbill kept Mr. Wilburn's coat and hat, and for our photo event, he came out dressed as Mr. Wilburn. That's kind of cool. As I said, for the Laro photography events, we do a lot of people shots. This is inside the shops at Rock Hill Furnace. EBT boxcar parked outside. Moving from the EBT, we're sticking with the narrow gauge theme here, but we lost a foot. We're now on the 2-foot gauge, Wisconsin, Waterville, and Farmington up in Maine. They are laying track on the original WWNF, about 4.5 miles worth so far. This box truss bridge was originally standard gauge. It was located in New Hampshire. It was moved over to the WWNF and put in service there. What you see here is not one of their own engines. There are 5 surviving Maine narrow gauge steam locomotives of all the railroads in Maine. The 2-footers, only 5 locomotives survive. Here we see Bridgeton and Saco River 044 tank number 7, which normally lives down at the museum in Portland, Maine, but was visiting the WWNF. This is the WWNF's own locomotive. Usually it's number 9. In the previous life, it was Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes number 6. And here it is wearing its Sandy River garb, once again for a photo event. Here we see Sandy River 6 meeting Monson number 3, another survivor from the 2-footers. Once again, this is for a photo events. We did a lot of stage scenes. Bridgeton and Saco River 7 in the background again. The tank car behind the locomotive is functional. It now holds water, which is good because there's no need to run back to the shop for water during photo charters anymore. They can take water right out of the tank car out in the field. Here we see some official Maine potatoes approaching the grade crossing. They also did a winter event back in 2019. It was 0 degrees Fahrenheit in the morning. It got up to highs of 12 all 3 days we were there. Once again, this is Wisconsin, Waterville, and Farmington number 9, wearing its Sandy River number 6 disguise. Not really a disguise because it was Sandy River 6 in the previous life. They have an Armstrong turntable there, and they have they're building a roundhouse, a replica of the Wisconsin roundhouse right here. Pretty much where I'm standing is the is one edge of what will be the roundhouse off to the right. Here we are with the WWF number 9, now properly numbered as number 9. This is the top of a grade, the steep grade coming up from the north. And for the photo train, photo event, they sent a big freight down the hill to charge up the hill for a run by, and it got stuck down there. Fortunately, there were multiple engines under steam, so they sent Monson number 3 down the hill to rescue it. Normally, you wouldn't see main 2-footers double-headed. This is an incredible place. Everything is just the way it was in the 1930s. The railroad runs without radios. It's all hand signals. They do everything as if it were still 1930. Very, very, very chilly day. On the final day of the winter event, just for kicks, they took every piece of rolling stock they had that would roll, 13 pieces, put them all on the one train, and then used 2 of the engines to pull it around just for fun. And here's all 5 of the surviving main narrow gauge locomotives. 4 of them normally live down in Portland, but they were up at Wisconsin for a main narrow gauge reunion. Monson number 4, Bridgeton Saco River number 5, I believe. From left to right, we have Wisconsin Monson 3. Then in the back is as Wisconsin Woodville and Farmington number 9. And on the turntable is Bridgeton and Saco River number 7. Back to Pennsylvania. We're now in the shop of the Reading and Northern in Port Clinton, PA. During the pandemic, they were busy working on 2102, ex-Reading 484. Here we see it in the shop, missing with its cab off to the side there. This is from inside the cab, looking out at the locomotive in the shop. Work slowed down a bit. This is late 2019, late 2020 during the pandemic. Work slowed down a bit simply because they wanted to debut the locomotive when people could actually ride the trains instead of doing all the social distancing. But finally, it came out of the shop, and it's pretty much in the scheme that it wore during the famous Reading Company Iron Horse Rambles in the 1960s with the yellow handrails, yellow trim on the running boards. The Reading, even in regular service back in the day, freight service, they had the yellow trim under the cab window and the yellow trim around the tender. So that was not for the Rambles. That's actually was used in freight service as well. And 2102 puts on quite a show. Here we see it coming up the grade at West Monoid Junction on one of its trips from North Reading to Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. Of course, my first memories of trains was riding the Iron Horse Rambles with my dad. So seeing a Reading 484 in Iron Horse Rambles paint is just incredible. I just can't get over it. This is at the Roundhouse in Port Clinton. Actually, it's a shop. It's not a roundhouse. This shot here, I wanted to see how it would look in black and white, so I just kind of changed things up a bit. And this is second time I chased it. This is in August of this year, leaving the shop at Port Clinton, coming through West Leesport, Pennsylvania, past the pond at Hecla, Pennsylvania, on its way to Jim Thorpe once again. The Reading and Northern is very, very busy hauling freight, coal and other stuff as well. As such, they took what was pretty much run down ex-Reading lines and have completely rehabbed them. The high-speed running, they even put in signals. And when they put in the signals, they put in searchlight signals. Hard to believe. That's pretty cool. Coming through Tamaqua on the return trip from Jim Thorpe. And crossing the Peacock Locks Viaduct just north of Reading. The other big steam news that over the past couple of years, though, has been the restoration of ex-Chesapeake and Ohio 2662 number 1309 on the Western Maryland Scenic. The first time I saw it, it was running a special trip for McHugh Locomotive and Machine. They've done a lot of contract work at a steep discount for the Western Maryland Scenic, and for that, in exchange for that, they ran a steam special for them. So here's the first time I saw 1309 under steam this past March on the McHugh Steam Special. Got back again. Now it's missing the green sign, thankfully. This is almost dark. Boy, digital photography has really opened up stuff you just couldn't do before. Here we are in the rain in the evening at Helmstedter's Curve as the train storms up out of Cumberland, Maryland. And this is arriving in Frostburg. It is dark. I mean, digital photography has just opened up so many doors. It's dark. And here it is coming into Frostburg in the rain. And once again, I wanted to say how it looked in black and white. Here we are in better weather. The train coming out of the railroad's headquarters across the river from Cumberland, Maryland in Ridgely, West Virginia. And once again, we're on Helmstedter's Curve here, heading up the mountains, all uphill, heading up the mountain to Frostburg. Coming underneath the next Western Maryland Signal Bridge. And arriving in Frostburg. And since then, I've done one more chase with the 1309. All the time now, whenever I go west out on I-68, I time it so that I go through Cumberland right around the time the train runs at 11:30 in the morning. Here we see it coming once again from Ridgely into Cumberland. This is in the city limits of Cumberland at a place called City Junction. And the reason I was here was because I wanted to get the old ex-Chesapeake and Ohio steam locomotive passing a Chesapeake and Ohio hopper car that I knew was sitting there. And coming up the grade, approaching Frostburg at the Parkersburg Road overpass. And finishing up, we're back in Frostburg again as the train is approaching the station. So that's some of the big steam news we've had here back in the East over the last couple of years. I will send this back over to Mike.
Well, thank you, Steve. Wonderful, wonderful program. Fantastic photography. Thank you for sharing it with us. I'm sure there must be some comments. I see in the chat, Bill Christopher says, awesome photography, Steve. Anybody have anything to ask or say to Steve?
I just say great photography. Steve is getting the hang of it.
I learned from you.
Yeah, right. I like your background out there. You got your computer out there with you, and your feet up on the.
It's actually a fake. Not well.
I know it.
It's a real scene from Five Islands, Maine.
Good seeing you again.
Good seeing you.
Anything else for Steve? All right. Wonderful show, Steve.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you for that.